yeah. To go back to the kid, like I'm present in the lives of my, my kids and my wife, and I'm a good husband and father. Like I get that the attack that I get more than anything else is you're not there with your kids. Like you care about work more than you do kids. And it's like, no, I don't. But it's like, that's the message I get all the time. And I'm very, very afraid of being that guy that is on his phone all day around his kids. And I fight it, but it's, that's so good.
I want to give a tip to that because my daughter spoke at the birthday party I had last night. It was my 50th birthday party, which was funny because we actually were celebrating 50th, but I was 52. We couldn't celebrate during COVID, so we've been putting it off for a long time. But my daughter spoke, and she's 24 years old, and she told the audience like the impact I had on her. And she said, my dad was gone a lot speaking, but I don't remember him gone a lot because when he was home, he was present. And I think that's key, just striving to be present and investing in your kids when you're with them. It doesn't have to be all the time. Just make the time you are with them present and be there with them and invest in them. And when you do, it's going to come back to you because I didn't make that effort. I felt bad for being gone so much. And I was wondering, getting attacked. Oh, I should have been there. Like I was having that day, Jade, did I travel too much? Was I not a good dad? And I was feeling down because those thoughts were coming to me. She goes, no, Dad, I remember you being there all the time. You came to my games. You always bring me food before my game. You did this. You encouraged me here. You were with me here. So you remembered those moments. And I'm like, thank God I did that during those times. I didn't build a training company during that time because I knew that I needed to spend time with my kids during that time. I was writing and speaking. After they left the home, went to college, that's when we started building the training company because I knew I couldn't do both at the same time. One would suffer. So I think that's important to always say, who'll be the people crying at your funeral? And spend more time with those people because guess what? Not a lot of people will be crying at your funeral and not everyone's going to come to your funeral. So I had an executive the other day. He would actually say to his team, are you going to be at my funeral? Are you going to be at my funeral? Will you be there? I thought about that. Like he would challenge his team to say, will you be there? Because a lot of people he worked with, when someone died, people did not go to that funeral. So what's going to make people want to come to your funeral? So be the kind of person that invests in them, but also the people that will cry the most are your family, and they should always be our biggest priority. But I guarantee, knowing you, that's the attack you're facing. That's not who you are. And I already see the future that your kids are going to be like, thank you for all you did to invest in me.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like hearing
it's pretty cool.
So speaking of kids, you got kids?
I have two kids. Well, they're not kids anymore, but my son is 22, about to graduate college. And my daughter is 24, and now she is speaking, actually doing this work. She about 30 talks this year. This is her first full year of speaking, and she's already just going after it, full of fear, terrified, but got called into this. That story's amazing. We don't have time for it, but recognize this was her purpose. I never thought she would do this because she was always afraid to get up in public and to speak. But then next thing you know, she got this call. She started doing it. She met a woman who spoke life into her. After that, she said, Dad, I'm going to do this work. And she's been doing it ever since and impacting people. It's pretty cool to see.
That's cool.
But I often think about this. I was a negative leader and a negative dad early on. So if I don't change, she would not be doing this work today or want to do it. She'd be like, my dad is a jerk. He doesn't live it. Or I would probably never even write a book like this. I had to change. Being positive doesn't just make you better. It makes everyone around you better. And I think it unleashes the legacy in others, so it allows them to live what their purpose is. So seeing her do this knows it's a direct reflection of me changing from negative to positive. That's why I'm so passionate about doing this work, and also why she is now. She's like, I've seen you change, Dad. I now see people change by even me speaking, and it makes her want to do it more and more. So these are my two kids, and my wife's speaking, my daughter is, I am, and our son thinks we're crazy. So there you go.
Any more tips for me? I mean, I got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. So as somebody who's been there before, what do you got for me? I
got a couple. Kath and I wrote Relationship Grit. And I think the key is it always looks like the grass is greener somewhere else because it is hard at this age. It's really challenging. And it's a battle. And there are times when you think it'd be a lot easier if I wasn't home or if I was going to do this or I was looking outside. And as someone who, publicly admitted the failure that they've had in their relationship, like my wife and I, we had some failures because I was not always faithful in our relationship early on. I wasn't a person of faith. I wasn't who I am today. And I had a lot of issues that I needed to heal. And so I wasn't this guy that was like making my relationships and my marriage a priority. And my kids were not my main priority. I was not being a great husband. I was not being a great father. I was so stressed myself. I was focused on me, no one else. Very much a self-focused kind of narcissist kind of person. And everything changed when I said, how can I help others? How can I make a difference? I'm so miserable. When she threatened to leave me, everything changed. She didn't know about the infidelity. It's hard to talk about that because when I talk about it, people think, oh, it was like a full-blown infidelity. It was not full-blown. It was not even Bill Clinton infidelity. It wasn't even that. It was looking outside the marriage.
Yep.
It was flirtation and things like that. And it was some physical contact of kissing, but beyond that. But it's still infidelity.
Yeah.
And then I told my wife. And what we tell couples all the time is the GRIT formula, G-R-I-T. G stands for God. You got to make God the center of your relationship and your family. I think that's really important to have that greater power that helps you. If you're not a religious person, but you believe in, say even addiction programs. Addiction programs all believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
Why? Because they know they're not strong enough on their own.
Yeah.
And so we need a greater power to strengthen us. Well, in your relationship with your family, you need that greater power. R stands for resolve. Stick together and resolve to stay together through challenging times because it's easy to walk away. But you got to fight for your marriage and you got to fight for your culture. Number one thing we did, family meeting. I highly recommend that. They're a little too young now, but in a couple of years, you'll have a family meeting, sit around the table, talk about your family mission statement, come up with one. Ask the kids their 1 words for the year. Talk about that as a family. Talk about their challenges, what they're going through. We found out so many things about our kids by having these family meetings on a daily basis. Some people call them these meetings dinner, but we would be so busy with everything going on in life that we would not often just talk. We'd be so busy. So you make this time for this family meeting. I would read something inspirational, show a video, and we would talk about it. And no one wanted to do it at times. Like I did, but they were like, no. My wife was like, no, I'm busy. I said, no, we're doing this. You have to fight for your culture, of your marriage, of your relationship, of your company, of your team. Culture is not just going to happen. You have to fight and protect your culture. So I had to fight for it. So that's the resolve. Then you got to invest. Make sure we're not consumers in our relationship. Make sure that we're investing in our relationship. And Catherine did so much investing in me all those years. I am who I am because of her love and support. There's no doubt. And now it's my time to be investing a lot back. I invested along the way, but even more now than ever. So investing is key, and invest in your kids. Like we talked about, time, energy, coaching, mentoring, just being there to listen. I wish I was a better listener, by the way. Here's a key tip. I would always try to give advice. Then I had to learn to start listening. And the more I listen to them talk, then I can be helpful. I'd say, hey, do you want some advice on this? But before I would speak, I would just ask permission to speak.
Yeah.
And my good friend Dan Brennan encouraged that because I would sometimes just always give advice. Then he said, no, ask permission. Hey, I have a suggestion. You want to hear it? They'd be like, no, Dad. Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't say anything. So you ask permission, which is really cool.